Here Hikaru wants to play knight to b6 so that he can place it to c5 square. And now here the best move for white is to just push h4 with the idea of h5 so that he can destroy this pawn structure. But here black can actually go for c6, trying to break this pawn structure, and if h5, simply black can develop his bishop to d7. Okay, and after takes, and at the end you can see that now black gets an open f file, and you can see that till now white is not castled till yet, which makes this position better for black. But in the actual game, after knight to c5, here Carlsen decides to push a3, preparing for b4. And after that, Hikaru slides his king to h8, stepping out from any danger, and which is in this g file, which is covered by this rook. Okay, so basically here the idea of white is to play bishop to h3, targeting this bishop, and then white can go for this b4, attacking this knight so that it can leave the defense of this e6 square, so that white can place his knight to e6, which forks this queen and this rook. So that's why after seeing this all, Hikaru immediately goes for h6. And here white can actually end percent, but here Carlsen decides to go to b5, attacking this knight, And after this, knight to b4. And now clearly you can see that black is threatening to capture this knight on f3 so that he can deflect this bishop, which is basically guarding this crucial d3 square, so that black can bring his knight to d3. Check, and white has to lose his queen. So that's why after seeing this all, Carlsen decides to bring his king to d2. And after this, Hikaru slides his queen to f7, targeting this h5 pawn as well as preparing for bishop to d8 and then bishop to a5. And now the best move for white is to bring his queen to a1 so that he can somehow infiltrate towards the black position. But instead, here Carlsen made an inaccuracy by bringing his king to d3. This is because now black can capture this with his c pawn. But here white can actually play c5, and obviously black can't capture this c5 pawn because then white will capture this e5 pawn with the knight, which targets this queen. So that's why here the best move for black is to bring his rook to c8, creating attack towards this pawn. And if white tries to push, simply black can capture this. And now you can see that white have two options to capture with the to capture this pawn, either with the b pawn or with the d pawn. And suppose if white captures with the b pawn, now this is over because simply bishop to f5. Here black can actually sacrifice his bishop. This is because suppose takes. Now simply queen takes d5 check, king to c2, rook takes c6 check, king to b1, and queen to e4 check, king to a2, and finally rook to c2. And clearly you can see that white is lost. So that's why instead of taking with the b pawn, let me go back. So it's better to capture with this d pawn, because by this you can see that now this queen cannot enter to this d5 square. But at the end you can see that black position is much better than white. But in the actual game, after king to d3, after this move, here Hikaru captured this with the bishop, which is not a good move. And now Carlsen can consider rook to g1 so that he can maintain some pressure towards the black position. But he blunders by going to a6. This is because now Hikaru immediately brings his bishop to a5, closing the escaping square of this king. And after this, king to d3. But instead, he must consider rook to a1 so that he can create some escaping square by capturing this bishop. And finally, you can see that Hikaru successfully trapped the Carlsen queen by simply, and after this he takes and takes. But guys, here black can also consider this amazing move, which is bishop takes d5. This is because after takes, e4 check, takes, queen to e8 check, king to f3, and obviously he can't capture this, he can't capture this pawn because then black will capture this bishop. So that's why king to f3, queen takes h5 check, king takes f4, and finally queen takes e2, and you can see that white is gone. Okay, so in the actual game after f3, here Carlsen captured this, but simply queen to f4, and in this position Magnus resigned. Okay, so let's move on to our next game, yeah, which is basically an Armageddon game. Now it's better for black to capture with the rook. Okay, so let me flip this board. Let's see this from Carlsen perspective. Yeah, so it's better to capture this with the rook, but here Hikaru goes for c5, here which opens the diagonal for his queen. Yeah, so basically he brings back his knight because he wants to play f5. And after this, knight to f6 by Hikaru, asking for knight exchange, and now here white can bring his queen to b1 so that he can support this bishop, as well as it also targets this b7 pawn. But instead Carlsen brings his queen to c2. And now you can see that in the next move, black will bring his knight to d4 so that he can take the control over this f file. So that's why here Carlsen brings his bishop to c3, stopping the move knight to d4. And now black can consider this move knight to d4, which targets this queen, but instead Hikaru decides to double his rook, which is a mistake because now Carlsen immediately brings his knight to g4, attacking this queen. But guys, here Carlsen missed something crazy. After queen to f8, here Carlsen can actually sacrifice his bishop by bishop takes e5. This is because after takes, now comes rook to f3, pinning this knight, and suppose if rook takes a4, simply bishop takes f5, bishop takes f5, and after this rook takes f5, attacking this queen. And if suppose queen moves to e8, now white can actually sacrifice his knight by knight to f6 check. And obviously this and this are attacked, so that's why black is forced to capture this knight. But after this, rook takes f6. And in the next move, white is going to give a check from g6 square, and clearly you can see that black is lost. But in the actual game, after queen to d3, after queen to d3, in this position, now this position becomes completely equal because Hikaru immediately brings his knight to d4. And now you can see that black is threatening to capture this a4 pawn with the bishop. And now it's important for white to capture this knight, but instead Carlsen decides to bring his knight back to e3. And now you can see that here black is threatening to capture this bishop because after queen takes rook, black will simply bring his knight to e2 with a check, and white has to lose his queen. So that's why here Carlsen simply slides his king to f1. And now it's better for black to bring his bishop to f5 so that he can exchange this bishop. But here Hikaru blunders by playing bishop to a4. But why this move is a blunder? Because black wants to capture this knight so that he can remove the defender of this f2 pawn, so that black can capture this with the queen. But he forgets that now Carlsen can play this amazing move, queen to b1. What a killer move by Carlsen. Basically, this move do two things. First one is white is targeting this rook, and secondly, white is also threatening to bring his rook to b8, pinning this queen. So that's why after seeing this all, Hikaru simply grabbed this a knight on d1, and here white cannot play rook to b8 because then black will capture this f2 pawn with the rook. So that's why he captured the rook first. And in this position, the final move by Carlsen is queen to g6, and you can see that in this, so in this position, basically Hikaru resigned. This is because now no one can stop this mate. This move will simply not work because takes, and this is mate. So, what an amazing game by both players. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.